Hey everybody. Remember when you were younger, you always had that uncle or the grandparent who always seemed to complain about everything, or at least that's how you perceived it, them complaining. They were just always annoyed at something, annoyed at the world. You know, when you're younger, your perceptions are a little bit skewed and you can exaggerate things a lot, but they always complained about the music. The music was too loud. The music was too noisy. It wasn't even music at all. They complained about the temperature. It's too hot, it's too cold, you know, and then you had the famous, well, back in my day, the stories, walking 10 miles to school through 10 feet of snow, or you didn't have cars when you were younger. And at the time, I'm thinking, what a grump, what a grouch. I am not going to become like that. I just thought they were an old, grumpy, grouchy person. I hate to say it, but I think I'm finally starting to understand them, and I might actually owe him an apology because it's happening. I feel like it's happening to me. It's not dramatic. There's no one-off type incident that's causing me to be grumpy. It's gradually happening, and I'm noticing it a lot. Just an example is when I'm looking at chairs, I'm looking for lumbar support. When I review hotels to choose from, I'm reading the reviews for hotels that have the best beds and pillows. And the most curious part about this is I don't think I'm wrong for doing it. Am I becoming a grump? So I came up with a list of ways to test this. If you say yes to any of these, you might be on your way to being a grump. So the first one is when you walk into a restaurant and the first thing you notice are the acoustics and the table setting arrangements. You're looking for where are the speakers located. I can vouch for that one. Who are the kids located? And you already have in your head, you want a minimum of 2 tables in between you and any tables that might have kids. And when the host says, oh, we have a good table over here by the kitchen, you're like, how about that one over in the corner where there's nobody sitting, 5 tables of it. Second one is, you walk into a place and you're like, why is it so loud? Why is it so loud in here? And I did that with the gym. The first day I went to the gym, I'm like, not only was the music so loud, but the raunchy music that they were playing, I was like, I can't listen to this. Licking stuff, and couldn't believe they were actually playing this at a public gym. Not really public gym, but private gym. But I think part of it, the problem there was the language. I suspect that they might not understand what the lyrics are. They just like the beat-bop beats. That's the hip thing to play here. Walking in the streets, the motorcycles, the cars, the noise. Oh, I'm so glad I left the city just for that alone. That was maddening. The guy who rides up your neighborhood street with the loud motorcycle. Unnecessarily loud. Sitting in a restaurant and watching someone have a full-blown conversation with someone on the phone with no headphones. Full-on speakers. I just had that incident 2 days ago. This woman was having a conversation with someone on the speaker and at a very loud volume. And another one was, at the same time, 2 young foreigner girls came in, and the one was wearing something that was underwear. It had to absolutely be underwear. I don't even think you could wear this in a gym in some places. Her butt cheeks were fully coming out of it. They were skin tight underwear. And this is what she was walking around in the restaurant. I couldn't believe it. Everybody was watching her. And the thing where I really couldn't hold myself was I had to say something to the friend I was sitting with. I'm like, I cannot keep my mouth shut. I have to express how disgusted I am with what I'm seeing. And she smiled and agreed. She wasn't as grumpy about it as I was. It's not that you're anti-joy, you're anti-music. It's just that you like it at 40% the volume that it's at now. It's unnecessarily loud. You can't even enjoy a conversation. The third one is you care about the chairs and not about the style, but you care about the comfort and the lumbar support it provides you. You can sit down and know immediately if this is a lumbar friendly chair or not. And you might even test a few out before you settle on one, unless they're all the same chairs. You're more interested in the ergonomics of the chair than you are of exactly what it looks like. Fourth one is You leave social events early, or you don't even go to them at all. I used to be one of the last people to leave to show that I was having fun. I didn't want to be rude. I wanted to be respectful to the host and be grateful. And I'm like, why am I always the last one to leave? I always admired the people who could show up and stay for a short period of time and leave. I'm more likely to decline an invitation, which I did today. And I'm like, sorry, I have other things I'm doing. Part of that is if you want to, even just to protect your morning, you don't want to stay out late. You want to go to bed early. You want to be in the comfort of your own couch in the evening, resting, and then I look forward to waking up and having my morning devotionals around 7, 8 o'clock for an hour and not feel like I'm being rushed. And I can sit there and enjoy it. And I really relish that moment. Going out at night, not at all. I started limiting my visits with people to lunches. I don't want my evenings taken or risk being taken to be out too late and to be driving around. You realize that you're starting to ration people. You know how you can ration food when you don't hate them, you just are budgeting them. You're budgeting for the type of person that you want to be around. One deep conversation is all you need. I just had that last week, 2-3 hour lunch with an extremely close friend. And for me, that was enough for a long time. The small chit chat just doesn't do it for me anymore. It's taxing. 6th one is inefficiency starts affecting you negatively on a molecular level. The meetings that should have just been emails. Leaders at work who are more interested in buzzwords and then the latest PC talk rather than getting to substance. And that was one of the people I was happy to get away from at my last job. He was all BS, and I just got tired of it. The incompetent leader. My last job was just, my boss was actually an incompetent leader. I just had no time for it. The conversations at the water tank, it was your weekend. I could tell they didn't care. And they were only interested in telling you about what happened to them over the weekend. I just lost the tolerance for it. And to all the mama bears out there, you like to talk about your kids, but I hate to tell you this, people don't care. They don't care about your kids' stories. I had a mom who was a big mama bear, and she told everyone about her kids. 99.9% of those people did not care. My siblings are mama bears. And when they start telling me about their kids' stories, and I just kind of sit there and start daydreaming, and I don't really hide it. The 7th thing is you just realize you're done trying to impress anybody. You're just done with it. You're probably in your 50s and 60s or whatever, and you got to where you are. You don't really need to go any further, or you don't have any desire to go any further. And that was a realization for me in my last year of work. I'm like, I realize that this will probably be it for me, and I just have no reason to pretend around the people who I had to work with. I was polite, clearly didn't have the patience for some of the things I had tolerated up until then. I didn't have to perform for anybody anymore. And some people might call that grumpy. I'm not so sure about that anymore. This is what I realized, and here's what I think grumpy looks like to me. A true grumpy person isn't the guy who's just miserable and angry about everything. I'm not talking about that kind of person. He's calm, he's observant, he's skeptical, overly cautious, cautiously optimistic. I'm the one sitting in the corner, sipping my coffee, observing the chaos, rather than feeling like I need to participate in it like I would have when I was younger. You're watching things like it's a documentary, and you're observing rather than actually participating. When I was growing up, they called that people watching. My dad was a big people watcher. He was the miserable retiree. And that's not what I'm talking about. But he was a people watcher. And I kind of find myself doing that too. The grumpy old woman, she's not bitter. She's just efficient. She's not cold, just selective. And she knows what is important to her. She's not going to waste her time on anything. And grumpy is not the same as being miserable. So here's the difference between grumpy versus miserable. Miserable person complains constantly. They blame others for everything. They clearly have no joy in their life, or they find no joy in anything. They always are a victim. They're the Debbie Downer, the person that can emotionally drain you after you're with them. The grumpy person, on the other hand, just has a low tolerance for nonsense. You can't take the small talk anymore. And protecting the internal peace is more important than adapting to the environment. You value depth over the noise and the chaos. You still laugh. You're a very happy person, but it's selective. And it's not for trying to impress. A miserable person drains the room. They drain you emotionally. A grumpy person will actually just exit the room. Miserable person wants to enjoy suffering, and they enjoy making other people suffer. Misery loves company. They love telling you about their problems. A grumpy person just wants you to turn the music down so you can enjoy each other and whatever activity you're doing. So, when I think about this, this is just getting clarity on what I want. When you were younger, you tolerated everything. You tolerated the noise, you tolerated the chaos, you tolerated small talk, you tolerated bad leadership. It was because you were climbing the ladder, you were climbing a social ladder, you were climbing a professional ladder, you were building yourself, and you didn't really know who you were yet. You were basically performing to get ahead in some ways. But when you stop climbing that ladder, something seriously shifts, and you begin to see you and what you value. You don't need the approval anymore. You don't need to smooth everything over. You don't need to avoid the conflicts or smooth over the conflicts, which I had a tendency to do. Try to make sure everything was okay, everybody was okay. You don't need to sit through nonsense just to be polite. If you get tired of the situation, you just get up and leave. So when you remove all the performance and the need to be liked, grumpiness ends up looking like this. You have your boundaries. You know how to keep your nervous system cooled and what can actually agitate it. After decades of pushing yourself, pushing your limits, adapting to the environments, working on end, working for all kinds of people, working with all kinds of people, adjusting the cultures and managing the relationships in work or managing the relationships around work. You just decide you don't want to have the chaos anymore. You're ready for the quiet mornings. You're ready for the serious, simple people. You're ready for the competent people. You want a coffee that tastes like coffee. You want a chair that when you sit in it, you could sit in here and just not have to feel your aches and pains. You want a chair that respects your spine. This isn't bitterness. This is just discernment. And this is inner peace and knowing who you are. When I say I'm becoming a grumpy person, this isn't someone who's yelling at the kids to get off the lawn. First of all, I don't have a lawn for anybody to be on. I will assess an environment when I walk into it, like a restaurant. I'll observe where the kids are sitting. I'll observe where the families are sitting. And I will intentionally try to avoid them. I will observe where the young couples are sitting and looking at their phones and snapping pictures of their food rather than eating it, or a loud table full of young whippersnappers. I have judged a hotel just based on a good pillow and a good bed. And I have left reviews based on whether the hotel had good pillows or a good bed. So maybe this isn't grumpy after all. This is just being refined, highly refined. So I'm curious to any of you who are listening to this. Have you noticed any of these type of things in yourself? Anything shifting in what you will tolerate and what you will accept as you get older? Was it just burnout from work? Was it actual retirement, or do you think it was just aging, getting older? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you what your experiences are and what do you think I could add to this list. And what do you think about the difference between being grumpy versus being miserable? Hope you enjoyed this one. I'd love for you to give me a like, subscribe, and until the next one, God bless, take care, and take it slow.